Blood. That's the first thing Gray Wolf tastes when consciousness drags him back from the darkness. Not water, not air. Blood. His own blood, thick and copper on his tongue, mixing with the dust of the New Mexico territory beneath his face. Above him, buzzards circle lazy and patient. Because out here in 1867, death always draws a crowd. His chest screams with every breath. A rifle ball lodged somewhere between his ribs and his heart. He tries to move. Can't. The massacre happened at dawn, and now the sun hangs high and merciless, baking the dead where they fell. Comanche warriors scattered like broken dolls. White settlers sprawled across overturned wagons. This wasn't a battle. This was mutual annihilation, and Gray Wolf, war chief of the Kotsoteca band, is the only one still breathing, barely. But here's the thing about dying slowly under a Wild West sun. You got time to think, time to remember, time to hate. Gray Wolf's wife and son were killed by white settlers 2 years back, butchered during a peaceful trade. That's what carved the rage into his bones, what turned him from a man seeking coexistence into a warrior painting his face for revenge. And now, surrounded by corpses wearing both buckskin and calico, that same rage is all he's got left to keep him warm as his body goes cold. Except, he hears something. Footsteps, small ones. A shadow falls across his face, blocking that brutal sun, and Gray Wolf forces his eyes open, expecting to see a soldier come to finish the job. Instead, he sees a ghost, a little white girl, no more than 7 years old, staring down at him with eyes blue as a winter sky and wide as a full moon. Her blonde hair hangs in tangles. Her dress, once probably pretty with ribbons and lace, is torn and splattered with dried blood, though he can tell, even through his haze. It's not her blood. She's clutching something in her small fists, strips of cloth. She's trembling like a leaf in a windstorm, and her breath comes quick and shallow, but she doesn't run. That's the moment everything changes. Because what happens next defies every story the West tells itself. This child, this enemy child, kneels beside the man who represents everything she should fear. Her hands shake so violently she can barely hold the cloth, but she presses it against his wound anyway. He wants to push her away. Wants to snarl at her to leave him to die with whatever dignity a warrior can claim among the carrion birds. But his body won't obey, and her voice, barely a whisper, cuts through his delirium. Mama says always help hurt people. Mama says, present tense, as if her mama's still alive to give instructions. But Gray Wolf's seen enough death today to recognize it on a child's dress, in a child's eyes. He knows what happened here. Same thing that happened to him. She's an orphan, same as his village made orphans of settler children, same as settlers made of his people. The great bloody cycle of the West, and this little girl's caught in its teeth. She works on him with desperate concentration, tearing more strips from her petticoat. That's all she's got, and trying to remember the way her mama wrapped Pa's hand that time with the axe. Her fingers fumble. The bandage is terrible, clumsy, probably useless, but she doesn't stop. 3 days pass like fever dreams. Gray Wolf drifts in and out, and each time he surfaces, she's there. A canteen at his lips. Where'd she find water? The creek, he realizes, watching her stumble back from downstream, the canteen clutched like treasure, because it's too heavy for her small arms. She's walking a 1/4 mile each way to bring him water. She shares her food, hardtack from her family's wagon, so hard she has to soak it in water first, and there's barely enough for one, let alone two. She gives him half, more than half. He watches her chew slowly, making it last, her hollow eyes never leaving his face. At night, she sleeps curled against a wagon wheel 20 feet away, and he hears her crying. soft, broken sobs muffled into her arms. "Mama," she calls into the darkness. "Mama, I'm scared." But when morning comes, she's back beside him, wiping his fevered brow with cloth dipped in creek water, humming a hymn he doesn't recognize. He should hate her. Every logical bone in his body says hate this child of the people who destroyed your world. But logic doesn't account for the way she buries her parents on the fourth day. He's strong enough by then to lift his head to watch. She's found a shovel too big for her, and she's digging in the hard earth while the sun beats down merciless. It takes her hours. Her hands blister and bleed. She falls twice from exhaustion, but she gets back up, keeps digging, because Mama and Papa deserve better than buzzards. When the holes are finally deep enough, barely, she drags their bodies with strength that shouldn't exist in someone so small. Adrenaline, desperation, love. She lowers them as gently as she can, and then she stands there, dirt-covered and swaying, and sings. Her voice cracks on every note of amazing grace, but she finishes it, all the verses. And Gray Wolf, watching this child perform a ritual of love for the people she lost, feels something shift in his chest, something that isn't the rifle ball wound. It's the hate. It's cracking, because this little girl, who should see him as a monster, who should leave him to rot and walk toward civilization and safety, instead chooses compassion. She chooses kindness when the world's given her every reason to choose anything else. That takes a kind of courage Gray Wolf's only seen in the fiercest warriors. The innocent, terrifying courage of a child who doesn't know enough yet to be anything but human. 2 weeks crawl by. The wound isn't healing right, but it's not killing him either. His fever breaks. His strength returns in inches. And through it all, this girl, he still doesn't know her name, and she doesn't know his, keeps him alive. She talks to him in English he barely understands, filling the silence with stories about a doll named Margaret, her mama's apple pie, her fear of storms. He listens to the music of her voice, even when the words escape him. And then, one night, everything changes again. He's drifting in half-sleep when he hears them. Horses, voices speaking Kiowa, not Comanche. Raiders from a rival tribe, drawn by the smell of abandoned supplies. The girl hears them too. She goes rigid with fresh terror, and then she's crawling toward him, pressing herself against his side, her whole body shaking. The raiders are close now, calling to each other, laughing. Gray Wolf forces himself upright, agony shooting through his chest, and he calls out in Comanche. Loud, clear, the universal language of warning. There's a warrior here. The laughter stops. Silence. Then the horses move away, fading into the night. When Gray Wolf collapses back down, breath ragged, he finds the girl staring at him. Really staring, seeing him. "You!" Her voice trembles with wonder and confusion. "You saved me?" And that's when Gray Wolf understands. This child saved him first, without thinking, because her mama taught her to help hurt people. Now he saved her back, not because of strategy or obligation, but because the thought of her being hurt made him move a body that shouldn't have been able to move. 2 weeks ago, he would have said the only good white settler was a dead one. But this girl with her shaking hands and brave heart has shown him something he thought died with his son. She's shown him that compassion isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing the West has to offer. By the time he can finally stand, the girl has become his shadow. Not because she's claimed him, but because she has nowhere else to go. She watches as he tests his weight, as he takes his first steady steps in 2 weeks. Fear returns to her face. He's healed. He's leaving, and she'll be alone in this graveyard of everything she loved. Gray Wolf looks at this small, brave child who kept him alive, who buried her parents and sang hymns and faced her terror every single day to bring him water. His people killed her family. Her people killed his. And somehow in the aftermath of all that bloodshed, she chose to be better than the hate. So he extends his hand. Come. She understands the gesture, if not the word. Her blue eyes search his face, looking for the promise he's making. Safety, family, home. Her small hand slides into his calloused palm. And just like that, Gray Wolf, war chief, warrior, man of hate, becomes a father again. Now here's my question for you, and I want you to drop your answer in the comments, along with where you're watching from. If you were that little girl, standing in the wreckage of everything you knew, would you have trusted him? Would you have taken his hand? Because what happens next will test that trust in ways neither of them can imagine. Here's what nobody tells you about redemption in the Wild West. It doesn't come with a sunset ride into peaceful territory. It comes with a gauntlet of fire, and Gray Wolf is about to walk this girl straight into the flames. Because taking that little girl's hand was the easy part. What comes next? That's where courage gets tested and broken and rebuilt from shattered pieces. The journey to his village takes 5 days, and every single one of them rewrites what Gray Wolf thought he knew about strength. This child, he learns her name is Sarah. On day 2, when she writes it in the dust with a stick, struggles to match his pace on legs built for schoolyards, not survival marches across brutal terrain. He watches her stumble, catch herself, keep moving without complaint. Watches her feet bleed through worn shoes she's outgrowing. By day 3, he's slowing his pace. By day 4, he's carrying her on his back when she finally collapses from exhaustion, too proud or too scared to ask for help. She falls asleep against his shoulder, her small arms wrapped around his neck, and something in Gray Wolf's chest, something he buried with his wife and son, tears open again. Not with pain this time, with something far more dangerous, hope. But hope in the West is like water in the desert, rare, precious. And the moment you find it, someone's always waiting to spill it in the sand. They reach the village at dusk on the 5th day, and the reaction is exactly what Gray Wolf expected. Worse, actually. Women scream, children scatter, warriors grab weapons and form a circle around them. And the questions come fast and sharp as arrows. What is this? Have you lost your mind? That's a white child! His brother, Black Hawk, pushes through the crowd, and the look on his face could split stone. Have you forgotten what they did to your family? The words hit like a physical blow because, no, Gray Wolf hasn't forgotten. He'll never forget finding his wife's body, his son's small form. But he's also holding Sarah now, and she's trembling against his chest, understanding nothing except the anger in every voice, the hatred in every stare. She buries her face in his shoulder, and her tears soak through his buckskin shirt. The elders gather. Faces Gray Wolf has known his entire life, faces that watched him grow from boy to warrior to chief, now look at him like he's a stranger, like he's betrayed everything they are. The council fire burns hot, and the debate burns hotter. Some want her gone immediately, just gone, left at the nearest fort, the nearest settlement, anywhere but here. Others want worse, and they don't say it directly, but Gray Wolf hears it in the silence between their words. She's a liability. She's the enemy. She's a symbol of every child they've lost to white expansion. And then Gray Wolf stands. Sarah's still clinging to him, and he has to gently pry her arms away. Lower her to sit beside Pale Moon, his sister-in-law, who's the only woman not glaring daggers. He stands in that circle of firelight and judgment, and when he speaks, his voice carries the weight of every loss, every scar, every reason he should hate the child behind him. This girl kept me alive when she could have let me die. When she should have let me die. He pauses, lets that sink in. She's 7 years old. She buried her parents with her own hands. She's an orphan, same as the children in this village whose parents fell to white guns. Same as I was made an orphan when they took my wife and son. Black Hawk interrupts, voice sharp. So you would make us weak? Make us forgive? I would make us something they don't expect. Gray Wolf fires back. I would make us human. The silence that follows is heavy enough to suffocate. Then Gray Wolf says the words that change everything. She is mine, my daughter. Anyone who harms her answers to me. You could hear a feather drop in the silence that followed. This isn't adoption in the casual sense. This is a blood claim, a warrior's vow. Gray Wolf has just put his entire reputation, his standing, his life on the line for a white child he's known for 2 weeks. The chief, old running bear, who's led their band for 30 winters, studies Gray Wolf for a long moment. Then he looks at Sarah, who's peeking out from behind pale moon, trying to be brave, even though her whole world is hostile and incomprehensible. One season, Running Bear finally says. We will see what this bridge brings us. It's not approval, it's not acceptance, it's a stay of execution. What follows are the hardest months of Sarah's short life, and watching her navigate them breaks Gray Wolf's heart daily. The Comanche children are merciless. They mock her pale skin, calling her Ghost Girl. They trip her when she walks past. They steal her food. She doesn't understand most of their words, but she understands cruelty just fine. She cries at night, pressed against the wall of Gray Wolf's lodge, trying to muffle the sound so he won't hear. But he hears. God, he hears every choked sob, and each one is a knife between his ribs. He starts teaching her Comanche with a patience he didn't know he possessed. Words first, simple ones, father, daughter, food, water, thank you. Then phrases, survival language, but Sarah's smart, whip smart, and she soaks up the language like desert earth soaks up rain. Within 3 months, she's speaking in broken sentences. Within 6, she's nearly fluent. And something shifts. Pale Moon is the first to truly soften. She watches Sarah trying to help with women's work, fumbling with tasks she's never seen before, determined not to be useless. One day, Pale Moon catches Sarah's hand and shows her the right way to scrape a hide. She has sad eyes, Pale Moon tells Gray Wolf later, like yours. After that, she teaches Sarah, alongside him, the language, the customs, how to move in this world that's so different from the one she lost. And slowly, so slowly it's almost imperceptible, Sarah starts to smile again. Gray Wolf discovers fatherhood the second time around is nothing like the first. His son had been raised in peace, learning to hunt and ride with joy. Sarah learns everything under the shadow of suspicion and threat. But she's resilient in ways that stagger him. She falls off a horse 7 times before she masters riding. Gets up every time, jaw set, determined. She burns food learning to cook over an open fire, tries again, and again. She practices Comanche words until her tongue aches, because she understands something crucial. Language is survival here. Communication is the difference between belonging and exile. One morning, 6 months after their arrival, Sarah brings Gray Wolf breakfast and says in perfect Comanche, "Good morning, father. I made this for you." The word, father, in his language from her lips, hits him like a war club. He has to turn away so she won't see his face, won't see the tears he can't quite stop. This little white girl who's lost everything, who's been given every reason to hate him and his people, just called him father like she means it. Like he's not a replacement or a convenience, but the real thing. Later, she asks him about his son, about the family he lost, and Gray Wolf, who's never spoken about them to anyone since their deaths, finds himself talking, telling her about a boy who loved to catch frogs, who laughed like birdsong, who would have been exactly her age. You honor his memory, Gray Wolf tells her, and he means it. She's not replacing his son. She's continuing something he thought died, the part of him capable of love. But peace in the West is always temporary. Spring arrives, and with it, rumors that freeze Gray Wolf's blood. The U.S. Army is looking for a captured white girl. They have descriptions. They're offering a reward. The whispers start immediately in the village. Some warriors see dollar signs. Others see Sarah as the spark that'll bring soldiers down on their heads. Black Hawk confronts Gray Wolf outside the council lodge, voice low and dangerous. She will bring the cavalry to our doorstep. She will get our children killed. Then I will deal with the cavalry, Gray Wolf responds. I will not give up my daughter. She's not your daughter, Black Hawk explodes. She's a white girl you've grown too attached to. She's a weight around our necks. The brothers stand there, tension crackling between them like lightning before a storm. Finally, Black Hawk shakes his head. You've chosen her over your own people, over your own blood. He walks away, and Gray Wolf knows. He's made an enemy of his own brother. The situation deteriorates fast. A scouting party returns 3 days later with news that sends the village into crisis mode. A cavalry unit, 50 strong, is 2 days' ride away. They're asking about a white girl at every trading post, every settlement. They have Sarah's description down to the small birthmark on her left wrist. The elders call an emergency council. Gray Wolf isn't invited, but he shows up anyway. Sarah's hand gripped tight in his. The debate is vicious. Return her and save the village. Keep her and risk war. There's no middle ground anymore, no more wait and see. Running Bear looks older than his years as he surveys the council. We must vote. Return the child or prepare for battle. That night, Gray Wolf sits sharpening his knife, preparing to defend his choice before the entire tribe tomorrow. Sarah finds him, and he knows immediately from her face that she's overheard the council talk. Children always do. I don't want people to die because of me, she says, her voice small but steady. I could go back to them. It would be okay. Gray Wolf's hand stills on the blade. He looks at this child. No, his daughter, who's willing to sacrifice herself to save people who've barely accepted her. Who's offering to walk back into a world that's foreign to her now that she's spent 9 months leaving behind, because she doesn't want blood spilled in her name. You are my daughter, he says, and his voice comes out fierce, almost angry. I will not lose you. I will not abandon you the way this world has abandoned compassion. Sarah's eyes fill with tears. But, no. Gray Wolf pulls her close, and she collapses against him, finally letting herself be the scared child she is. We face this together, you and me, whatever comes. The council convenes at dawn, and every member of the tribe packs into the circle. Gray Wolf stands, and Sarah stands with him. He makes his case. This child represents what they could become. Not destroyers, but protectors. Not warriors who perpetuate the cycle of violence, but people who break it. Black Hawk argues the opposite with fire in his voice. She's a weapon the white men will use to destroy them. She's a symbol of their weakness. She'll bring death to their doorstep. The debate rages for an hour or two. The sun climbs high and merciless. And then Sarah does something no one expects. She stands, speaks, in flawless Comanche. I am not my people, she says, voice shaken but clear. Just as you are not your worst day. Just as my father is not the hate that once consumed him. He taught me this. The council goes silent. Every eye is on this small white girl speaking their language perfectly, invoking their own wisdom. I know I'm different, Sarah continues. I know I'm a risk, but I'm also proof that we can choose who we become, that we're not prisoners of the past, unless we choose to be. Running Bear stares at her for a long moment. Then, impossibly, he smiles. Just a little. One season, I said, to see what this bridge would bring. He looks around the council. I have seen enough to give her another. It's not unanimous, it's not even close, but it's enough. Sarah has bought them time, but as the council disperses, a warrior named Swift Arrow mutters loud enough for everyone to hear. Time for what? For the cavalry to find us. And Gray Wolf knows he's right. The cavalry is coming. The question isn't if anymore, it's when. And what will they do when they arrive? Because in 3 hours, maybe less, 50 cavalrymen are going to crest that ridge, and every single one of them believes they're riding in to rescue a captive child. They don't know she's not captive. They don't know she's home. And that difference, that's what's about to turn the New Mexico territory into a powder keg with a lit fuse. The cavalry appears like a dark stain spreading across the morning sky, and the Comanche village explodes into controlled chaos. Warriors grab weapons. Women hurry children into lodges. Everyone's preparing for the fight they've known was coming since the day Gray Wolf brought Sarah through those trees. But Gray Wolf, he's doing something nobody expects. He's stripping off his weapons. Every knife, every tomahawk, the rifle he's carried since he was 16. He hands them to Pale Moon, who stares at him like he's lost his mind. "Brother, what are you doing?" she whispers. "Ending this," he says, "or dying trying." Sarah grabs his arm, panic flashing across her face. "Father, no! You can't go out there alone!" But he's already moving, and the look he gives her stops her cold. It's the look of a man who's made peace with whatever comes next. Gray Wolf rides forward on his paint horse, sitting tall and unarmed in a way that takes more courage than charging into battle ever did. Because this is vulnerability as warfare, this is trust as a weapon. The cavalry's arranged in formation, rifles ready, and at their head sits a young lieutenant with sand-colored hair and eyes that haven't seen enough death yet to be truly cold. Lieutenant Daniel Morrison, though Gray Wolf doesn't know his name yet. What he does know is that this boy soldier is nervous, and nervous men make fatal mistakes. Daniel's hand hovers near his pistol as Gray Wolf approaches. "That's far enough," Daniel calls out, voice trying for authority and landing somewhere near anxiety. "We're looking for a white girl taken from a massacre site 200 miles south. 7 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes. If you've seen her..." "I have seen her," Gray Wolf interrupts in careful English, and the entire cavalry line tenses. "She is with my people. She is safe. She is my daughter." The words land like stones in still water, ripples of confusion spreading through the ranks. Daniel's face hardens. "She's not your daughter. She's a captive, and we're here to bring her home." "She is home." Gray Wolf's voice remains calm, but there's steel underneath. "Your people killed her family. My people gave her a new one. She does not wish to leave." "With all due respect," Daniel says, though there's no respect in his tone. "A child doesn't get to decide." "Then you are the same as those who killed her parents," Gray Wolf cuts him off. "Making choices for her, taking her agency, deciding what's best without asking what she wants." The silence that follows is dangerous. Daniel's jaw works. His men are watching him, waiting for orders, and Gray Wolf can see the young lieutenant's mind racing through options. None of them good. That's when Sarah does something that'll be talked about in both Comanche camps and cavalry forts for years to come. She rides out from the village, alone, on the small pinto Gray Wolf gave her for her 8th birthday 3 months ago. She's wearing buckskin, her blonde hair braided in the Comanche style, and when she positions herself directly between her father and the cavalry, every gun barrel shifts toward her. "Sarah Mackenzie." Daniel's voice cracks with something like hope or horror, maybe both. "Yes," she says clearly. That was my name. Was. Daniel urges his horse forward 2 steps. Sarah, it's okay. You're safe now. We're here to take you home. I am home, Sarah interrupts, and her voice doesn't waver. These are my people. That man is my father, and I'm not leaving. You can see Daniel's worldview fracturing in real time. This doesn't fit the story he was told. Captives are supposed to be grateful for rescue, not defiant, not protective of their captors. They've brainwashed you, he tries, made you believe. They've loved me, Sarah fires back, and now there's heat in her voice. When I had nothing, when I was alone and terrified and covered in my parents' blood, these people gave me food and shelter and family. My father, she gestures to Gray Wolf, saved my life multiple times. He's taught me strength and compassion and what it means to choose who you become, instead of letting hate choose for you. She switches to Comanche then, speaking to her people who've gathered at the village edge, watching this impossible scene unfold. Then back to English, translating her own words. I was 7 years old when hate died around me. I should have died too. But a man who had every reason to let me die chose compassion instead. He taught me that we are not what is done to us, we are what we choose to do next. Her voice breaks slightly but doesn't stop. So I'm asking you, Lieutenant, please, choose differently than those who came before you. Choose to see that not every story has the ending you expect, that sometimes rescue looks like leaving someone in the home they've built from ashes. The moment hangs suspended, fragile as spun glass. Daniel looks at Sarah, really looks, and sees not a traumatized captive, but a fierce, articulate girl who's found something he's never had. A purpose beyond survival. He sees Gray Wolf, unarmed and vulnerable, putting everything on the line for this child. And somewhere in that young lieutenant's chest, something shifts. Stand down, Daniel orders his men. The cavalry erupts in protest. Sir, our orders. I said stand down. Daniel's voice cracks like a whip. He turns back to Gray Wolf. This buys you time, nothing more. I'll report back what I've seen, that the girl's unharmed, that she's choosing to stay. But my commanding officer, he shakes his head. He won't see it the way I do. Others won't be as willing to listen. Then we will face them when they come, Gray Wolf says quietly. Together. Daniel nods once, respect flickering across his face. Then he wheels his horse around and the cavalry follows, dust rising in their wake. The village exhales collectively, but Gray Wolf knows this isn't victory, it's intermission. The real test is still coming. That night, as the village celebrates their temporary reprieve, Black Hawk appears at Gray Wolf's lodge. His face is stone. You've made us weak, he says. You've shown them we can be reasoned with, negotiated with. You've painted a target on our backs. I've shown them we're human, Gray Wolf counters, that we're capable of more than violence. And when they come back with a man who doesn't care about humanity, Black Hawk's voice is quiet, deadly. When they come back with someone who only understands force, what then? He leaves before Gray Wolf can answer. And the question hangs in the air like smoke. Because Black Hawk's right. Daniel Morrison was an exception, not the rule. The answer comes 1 week later. A rider brings news that turns Gray Wolf's blood to ice water. Lieutenant Morrison has been reassigned. His replacement is Colonel William Harrison, a name that carries weight and dread across the frontier. Harrison's family was killed in a Comanche raid 8 years back. His wife, his 2 daughters. Since then, he's built a reputation for ruthlessness that makes hardened soldiers flinch. He doesn't negotiate, he doesn't take prisoners, he exterminates. And he's bringing a full battalion, 300 men, 3 days away. His demand arrives via messenger the next morning. written in handwriting so precise, it's terrifying. Return the white girl known as Sarah Mackenzie to Fort Union within 48 hours, or your village will be wiped from existence. There will be no negotiation, no mercy. This is your only warning. Sarah stands at the edge of camp, watching the horizon where dust will soon rise again. But this time it won't be one conflicted lieutenant. It'll be an army led by a man with nothing left to lose and everything to avenge. Gray Wolf approaches, and she doesn't turn around. "You could go," he says softly. "End this. Save everyone." The words cost him everything to say. Sarah's quiet for a long moment. When she speaks, tears stream down her face. "I won't leave you, and I will not give you up," Gray Wolf responds, his own voice thick. They stand together as storm clouds gather on the horizon. Real ones this time. Dark and heavy with rain, or maybe something worse. In the distance, barely visible yet, dust begins to rise. Someone's coming. A lot of someones. Sarah grips her father's hand, and he grips back, and they stand there at the edge of everything they've built, everything they've become, facing down the approaching storm. Because this is what love does in the Wild West. It doesn't make you safe. It makes you brave enough to stand your ground when everything sensible says run. Whatever happens next, they'll face it the way they've faced everything since that first day among the corpses and buzzards, together. But will together be enough when Colonel Harrison arrives? Will Sarah's courage and Gray Wolf's love be able to stop a man consumed by revenge? And what choice will Black Hawk make when the bullets start flying? Will he protect his brother's daughter, or will he see her as the catalyst for his people's destruction? If you want to find out what happens, when that dust cloud reaches the village, when Harrison gives his final ultimatum, when everything Gray Wolf and Sarah have built gets tested by fire and blood, then you need to hit that subscribe button right now. Because this story, we're just getting started. Part 2 drops soon on Mr. Wild West, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens when a father's love goes to war with a colonel's hate, when a little girl's choice between two worlds becomes the difference between peace and annihilation. Drop a comment telling me, do you think Sarah made the right choice? Would you have stayed, or would you have gone back to save the village? And subscribe to Mr. Wild West, because the best stories in the frontier don't have easy endings. They have real ones, and this one's about to get very, very real.